Coming off of our review of Elijah Craig A125, we had some follow-up questions for the community to see if others felt the same decline in the batches over the last couple years as we have. And through that, we got some interesting comments that we're going to analyze and go over towards the end of this video. But I'm very interested to hear even further from the community your reactions to what is going to be discussed here. Hello again, whiskey friends. And thanks for joining, everybody. So we are going to be diving further into Elijah Craig Barrel Proof coming off of the A125. Now, if you're here, hey, be sure to hit that like and subscribe. Really helps the channel. And you can also follow us further either in our private Facebook group or support the channel through Patreon with links in the description. But with Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, this has been one of our favorite series throughout our whiskey journey, dating all the way back to the pirate bottles and the batches that came out before 2017 and the modern shape and ABC batch naming that we see now. One of the cool things that we've done over the years is that we've actually reviewed every single ECBP batch we could get our hands on, and that always brings up some interesting questions from the community each time we do a review. So coming out of the latest rounds of reviews with the A125, people wanted to know where it ranked. So I went back to all of our prior analysis and pulled up where the A125 is, and you can also see where your other favorite batches may apply on this list as we tier them. So what you see on the screen here is the list of tierings from the S class all the way down to an E. Notice that there is no F class here. There is no F in the ECBP series. Even the ones that are E are really good for the price and compared to other things on the market, where even at a 10-year age statement is kind of unheard of for $80 coming from any of the legacy distilleries. At the top of the list, though, is Batch 10. That was one of the pirate bottles and one of my favorite bottles of all time. You can also see in the A tier, the A119, C919, C923, and the B8. And as your eyes go down that list, just kind of notice that the C923 is really the only modern era one to stick out, and everyone went crazy over that just 2 years ago. The other thing I wanted to show here is that if you look at the last 4 batches to come out, dating all the way back to the A124, you will notice that none of them are in the upper tiers of the list that we have here. And to take that even further, notice that the B518 is actually the only less modern release that isn't in these upper tiers as well. And I believe this is what people are feeling when it comes to the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof series, with essentially everything coming out after 2020 just being less of the memory than we had before. So we reached out to the community to see if people were feeling the same thing, and we got some interesting comments that I'd like to talk about, and some further in here that I think are warranting some additional commentary. ECBP batches are no longer must-have. Regretfully, I've been disappointed in some of the ECBP bottles of late. ECBP is still good, but I'm just no longer excited about it. I think this is the problem. In 19, 20, 21, I backed up all the batches. After 2024 batches, I'm no longer going to be buying ECBP unless I see a really good review. So in general, the common vibe that we got is just like our reviews, people are feeling that this brand isn't living up to their prior expectations. But are those expectations fair? We're going to get into that too. Another question that we posed to the community is if they felt the single barrels were in any way pulling down the quality of the batches. We are seeing more barrel-proof single barrels out there on the market. Some people are saying those were even more exciting than what they're getting from the batches. But here's a good comment here. Honestly, I don't think the single barrel selection program is directly having a negative effect on the batch ECBP releases for quantity's sake. On the high side, 10 single barrels per state, 50 states, that would be 500 barrels. With what we know of Heaven Hill, and the estimates are what? 1 million barrels aging? That is just a drop in the bucket. Great take, OH. I do think this is a situation where correlation doesn't equate to causation. Another really good comment came from our whiskey friend, Travis. I have not seen a single barrel pick that has been older than 11 years. Most have been 8 to 9. Hence, it would not have changed the age statement portion of the program based on batch sizing. I say it could change the flavor profile of those batches by getting some of these honey barrels out of circulation that maybe would have gone into the batches. I am just not a professional to know if taking 150 to 300 barrels a year would make a big difference on that flavor profile. Once again, agreeing with you, Travis, I think something else has to be going on. And I think our next comment illuminates probably the story behind the scenes and the greatest lesson to learn from what is going on with Elijah Craig Barrel Proof today. There are many more factors to consider. Grain quality 20 years ago versus 10 years ago. Barrel wood quality 25 years ago versus 8 years ago. Blending to a different target audience. Whiskey advocates versus whiskey curious. There are a lot of reasons why the distillate taste profile has changed. And I do think that is an important lesson to learn for anyone on their whiskey journey as you keep up with these different brands. They are not the same over a course of time. In general, I've kind of seen these different eras pop up in groups of either 5 to 8 years. What are the things that are changing? Well, the staff behind the scenes is changing. The master distiller could change. The master blender could change. Also, the producers of the grains that they're using could change or could be having different quality seasons as time goes on. As mentioned in the comment too, wood is a big factor in this. And maybe the quality of the wood isn't going into the same barrels or they're using a different barrel manufacturer. As they use things like different cooperages, it would have an impact on the flavor profile over time, but you might notice that flavor drift slowly and not all at once. And maybe that's what we're seeing here with ECBP over the last couple years. I learned this lesson very early in my whiskey journey, mainly with MGP. Still to this day, my favorite era of whiskey is stuff that was made by MGP, going all the way back to their Seagrams and LDI days from 2005 to 2010. That is my era. And while I love the MGP that is coming out now that has gotten back up to good age statements, it's not the same as that classic era. And I do covet those bottles more than any. So important lesson in all this is to not take your whiskey for granted and to appreciate when you're in a good era while you are in it, because you can't rely on that brand producing at that same level indefinitely. With all of these different factors, there has to be some flavor drift over time. And when you experience it, while that could be disheartening, appreciate what you have while you have it, back up things while they are hitting, and then if things aren't hitting anymore, take a little break and wait for them to come back, because we're going to put our feedback out there in the community. They'll hear that feedback and maybe they'll respond in some way accordingly over time as they make adjustments. But with all things whiskey, it takes a while to adjust these things and to get those barrels back up to these age statements. So thank you for joining today, whiskey friends. Let us know what you think in the comments about this, and if there's any other topics that you would like to discuss. In general, I do think this will be one of our last videos on ECBP for a while, though we're still going to do reviews on each batch. I love getting into new bottles of this, and it's still great for the age statement that it provides. And just remember, while you can always find more whiskey, you can never have enough good whiskey friends. So take care of those around you, and we'll catch you on the next one. Goodbye, buddy.